everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you as always for tuning back in. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Layla, the Lenormand reader, and today folks, I am focusing on a love question for this pick-a-card reading. I am asking the question if you are meant to be together. You might be in a relationship and you're wondering if this is meant to be for good or for the long term. Or you could be wondering about a relationship. Maybe there's a strong energy here and a strong attraction, and you're wondering if this is it, if you are meant to be together. So I have 4 stones here, which means we're going to do 4 readings. And I'm not going to divide the deck into 4 piles of 9. I'm going to draw a fresh layout for each one of the readings. So the first stone that we have is Brandberg. The second one is the beautiful Opalite. And then third one is Carnelian, and the fourth one is the cat's eye stone. You will find the timestamps in the description box. As always, if you want to pause the video to tune into which stone you want to resonate with, go ahead and do that, and I will see you in your reading. Okay, Brandberg stone, we are looking at a portrait for you. I'm going to deal out the cards in here. Of course, my deck is always shuffled in between readings. So we are looking at if you are meant to be together. Let's go ahead and draw your cards. These are some really interesting cards, Brandberg group. We have some very challenging cards in contrast with some very beautiful wish fulfillment cards. And obviously I'm looking at the whip and scythe on the left versus the star on the right. On top of that, we have the man that figures in the layout. A person card is always good for a love reading because the man and woman classically represent the connection with that other half, that special person. We also have the heart, which is very beautiful. What I do pick up immediately from this reading is that the challenge cards are on the left-hand side and the wish fulfillment cards are on the right-hand side. However, there is also the book, which can bring up some mysteries. So this can go in a couple of ways, and I think when we look at the details, we might be able to identify one over the other. The 2 ways that I'm thinking is there could have been a past challenge with this person, but you're able to heal it moving forward, and this can be the right person for you, and you are meant to be together, or this is not meant to be, and a new person can come into the picture because we have the book. So let's go ahead and weave these lines into a whole picture to see what is the conclusion that we can draw for you from these cards. So the bird at the top here can suggest that you're pretty anxious about this. Maybe you're stressing out about this relationship, but I want to suggest that when the bird figures on your first card, the advice is not to do that. Do not stress out. Do not stress out the other person. Try to relax and calm down. If you want to have a conversation, that is fine, but you might want to tone down the energy, keep it calm so that you can balance out the atmosphere. There's no need to stress things out. The tower in the center is quite interesting in such a context with these cards and for such a question. It's one of those cards that can also go 2 ways, I feel. The tower is often associated with being isolated. It's also a card of the past and time, and it can also refer to the long term. It can also point to official matters. And with the book here, there can be a bit of a mystery that's been ongoing. Perhaps for a long time, you're not clear about where this relationship is going, or it's not clear what is the future of this relationship. And I think this might be part of what is frustrating you, like you're not sure what to make of it for the long term. I also think that it's possible that you're not really seeing a future for this for the long term. And if you are single, you're not so sure that this would be it for the long term. I feel that it is going to balance out into this Brandberg group, but let's continue weaving the cards. The scythe, tower, and man. This can be a pretty clear indication of releasing a past relationship. The tower and man can point to this person you've been with for a while. And with the scythe here next to the tower, I often take it to mean a release from the past. So if you are in a relationship, this is a pretty clear message. But even if you're not in a relationship and you're contemplating this relationship, then it can mean that this might not work out for the long term, because the scythe is a card of separation. And when we see it next to the tower, it can mean a release from a certain phase. So at this point, it looks like the message is building up towards releasing a relationship in favor of a new one that will be the right one. Let's look at the columns. We have the bird, whip, and scythe. This is a pretty aggressive set of cards pointing to either a tough conversation, possibly gossip, and tough things that were said. You know, there could have been an argument, some sharp words exchanged, and maybe this is what is causing you to first stress out, but also question whether this is meant to be over the long term. It's possible that through this challenging conversation, or the words that came out, you felt that you saw the tip of an iceberg. Maybe you felt that a red flag. I think that's a good way of putting it. And so this is probably causing you the anxiety about how you feel about this relationship. The heart, tower, and house, on the other hand, is really positive for stability over the long term. The house is very much a card of family, home, stability, building something solid, and the tower really adds to that. It is about the long term and official matters and really stabilizing in the house. And when we see it with the heart, it is very possible that this can work over the long term, and maybe that you create a home and a family with this person. We see that a T crosses the top row. The bird, heart, and man is quite a pretty combination. The bird can be a bit anxious and stressed out about the feelings here, but I do think that it can work out really well, because there is also the star, and we'll see that this central cross also supports the message. So this can actually work out over the long term. Let's keep on weaving these cards, because there is quite a bit of contrast in the layout. The man, star, and book can point to a wonderful revelation about this person. It can also point to healing. It can also point to wonderful news, or it can mean someone new. Someone new, because the book is often the card of the unknown. And with the star and man here, it can mean this person whom you are dreaming of, wanting, wishing for, and it can also represent the soulmate, because the star is a pretty spiritual card in that sense. Now, we read the top row. Let's continue with the second row. We have the whip, tower, and star. And I think this message is somewhat similar to what we saw in the second diagonal, suggesting that there could be a release from the past, or there could have been an issue in the past, which T crosses the left-hand side column. And it does heal in the future, because the star is an all-around healing card and wish fulfillment card. And I say in the future because it figures in the right-hand side column, which is associated with the future-most aspects of the story. So I'm seeing that there is a good possibility that you can heal the past, assuming there were issues with this person. So this is interesting. Moving on to the bottom row, we have the scythe, house, and book. This can point to a major change, possibly one that involves changing where you live, how you live, and moving into a new place, possibly a new home. If we take this bottom row to T cross the central column, it can mean a release from the past into a new one. So I feel this is supportive, in fact. So it's interesting how we do have a balance of two possibilities here. At this point, I'm inclined to say that it's possible to heal differences and embrace a future together. And if that feels like it resonates, then it may well work out very much for the long term, and you are meant to be together for the long term. If this is not about a relationship that you are in, and maybe one that you're contemplating, maybe there's a strong attraction here, It's possible that in the past or previously in the story, in your story, there were issues that caused you to doubt. But I feel that with the Tower, it tells you that in time, matters will be revealed. And I think this person may well be the one for you. I have to say though, Brandberg Group, that this relationship is not without some challenges here. I mean, the Whip and Scythe are pretty aggressive cards, but it's really nice to see. I have to say, Brandberg Group, that this is quite an interesting portrait and an interesting development in this relationship, but not without challenges. The Whip and Scythe are pretty strong. I mean, they're two of the most aggressive cards. At the same time, the Star is a wonderfully healing card, and it's also in a location in the portrait that can help overcome these challenges into a new phase and one that lasts over the long term. It's also possible, Brandberg Group, that embracing this relationship can mean that you and the other person make some deep changes to your life. You could move, you could change where you live, how you live. There can be some big changes on the home front, or within your family, or within a certain environment that possibly implies other people in that environment. And so I'm going to leave it up to you, Brandberg Group, to see how far you take this relationship, but I think it does have potential for the long term. I think there are some things to be clarified. I think you will need to overcome a past challenging chapter. And I also think that it's not wrong to give it time. So if at this stage you are of two minds about this, you're still in that zone where you're conflicted about the issues that happened, that's fine. Take your time with that. But then I think that it is warranted to have faith in this relationship. The Tower and Star have these mysterious elements of faith. The Tower can mean that you're looked after in mysterious ways, and that maybe not everything happens in a clear way to you, but things are taken care of. In other words, they are in the hands of a higher power. And with the Star, this is a lovely message of healing. So I think if you're willing to let go and forgive the past, I think this can really turn into something with a lot of potential, and this may well be the relationship that is meant to be for you. So I want to ask you if this resonates with you, if you feel you can move past the issue and embrace a longer term potential with this person, or if you feel that it tips more on the other side for you and suggests instead that you need to release the hopes for this relationship, whether you are in it or not right now, and trust that in time someone new will come to you. So a very interesting portrait here with a couple of possibilities for you, Brandberg Group. Again, I want to re-stress the idea that comes through the bird that yes, talk things out and express yourself, but also be a good listener and have the other person express themselves and talk things out so that you can collaborate. And don't stress out. There's no need to. Don't stress the other person out. Maybe a lot of things are happening in your head. And sometimes when we express these things, they don't really make sense, so there's no need to create that kind of tension, prematurely at least. Maybe just let things unfold a little bit, like we see through the Tower with the book. That would be very helpful, I think, and you will get more signs and align better with this relationship. Again, I feel it has potential to heal and to turn into something beautiful over the long term. Really beautiful. I mean, the central column with the central row is very powerful in the sense we do see the Whip on the left-hand side, the Star on the right-hand side, and the beautiful potential over the long term. So I think you can give this relationship a chance. Have faith in the longer term. Have faith in the time that it needs to unfold. And in time, you may well discover how much potential this has for you. So some very interesting messages here for you, Brandberg Group. Let me know if you like them. Let me know what you made of them. I'm really looking forward to your thoughts and comments. Very best of luck with this wonderful energy and somewhat challenging as well energy. Let me know how it plays out. So thanks again for watching Brandberg Group and for tuning in. I'm looking forward to our next one together. And until then, take very good care of yourself. Hello, Opalite Group. Thanks for tuning in. Here we are with your reading and your stone. And of course, my deck is shuffled between readings. For your layout, I am going to do a large hourglass. And remember, we are looking at if you are meant to be together, whether you are already in a relationship or you're contemplating one. You might feel that this is a strong energy here and you're wondering if this is it, if you're meant to be together. So let's go ahead and deal out your hourglass and see what messages we get for you. Okay, Opalite Group, these are some really interesting cards. We have lots of positive cards. We have the Star, Clover, Sun, and Flowers. These are four of the brightest cards of the deck. But there is a contrast to that. And for me, the contrast doesn't come through the Mouse, Coffin, and Scythe, as some of you might think, because they are typically challenging cards, but it really comes through the Dog. The Dog is the card of friendship, as opposed to a love relationship. It can represent a partner, but when I am reading for love, I like to use the cards with a degree of contrast, and I take the Dog to represent a friendship and the Ring to represent a love relationship or a connection, as well as other combinations. But to see the Dog in the right hand mini portrait, I feel that this can point to a friendship, and then the Mouse, Coffin, and possibly Scythe in various combinations can suggest the idea of releasing the love relationship aspect of the relationship and embrace a friendship instead. So that's my initial assessment of the cards. Let's go ahead and weave them in the different combinations. I like to start with the central row. In an hourglass, we have the Anchor, Woman, and Dog. So the woman can represent you or the other person. It doesn't really matter. And we see here with the Anchor and Dog that this is a really solid relationship. The trust is very strong. There is a lot that you can rely on with this person. I think they are amazing support to you and probably you to them. So there is a very good foundation in terms of the friendship. And that is something that can work wonderfully for you, whether you take it only to the level of a friendship or move on beyond that. Now, the Star Rider, Mouse, and Flowers is actually a positive combination despite the Mouse. And the reason I say that is because we get the Flowers after the Mouse. The Mouse is a card of loss, speed bumps, little issues, glitches, things going wrong here and there. In relationships, it points to trust and mistrust and doubts. But with the Flowers on the other side, it does help you recover the issues that are brought up by the Mouse. And on top of that, we have the beautiful Star and Rider, which points to healing and moving forward and letting go. And so I really think that if there were issues with this person, or if you had doubts about this person, trust issues, or perhaps them towards you, then you can recover from this and go back on the same page of trusting each other and having a really positive relationship. In the bottom row, we also have an interesting message. We have the Scythe, Clover, Coffin, and Sun. Now, the Scythe and Coffin are not right next to each other, but they're pretty close, and this is a pretty final combination of an ending. It can be the Death combination, although as you've heard me say many times, I need more cards before I come up with such a meaning or use these two cards to indicate that. I also need context. And with the Clover in between them, it might be in your interest to end the relationship from the perspective of having hopes for it as a love relationship and instead embrace a friendship. The Sun on the other side of the Coffin is lovely. It can point to healing and success and a wonderful new chapter that comes after the Coffin. And it can also mean a really happy ending, possibly a sense of release and relief that comes in a way that makes you feel free again. And so I have to wonder if you are feeling somewhat burdened by this relationship, or do you feel that maybe you want to move on but you weren't able to, you were sort of waiting for a sign or something. If that's the case, then this is definitely your sign, Opalite group, but I have to say, just like in the first reading, this is quite curious. The cards can't tip in the other direction. And what I'm thinking is that the cards can be telling us that first you need to establish a strong foundation in terms of the friendship with this person, really getting to know them better before you move on to a love relationship. That is possible. Let's move on to the columns and then the mini portraits. The scythe and star can be quite a breakthrough. It can also point to a healing, a release that I think works well with the theme that we saw in the bottom row. It's as though you need to break out of something. And actually, when we look at the scythe, anchor, and rider, it is very much about breaking out. I take the scythe and anchor to mean releasing the ball and chain, because the anchor is really anchored and it's, hard and heavy. And then the scythe sort of breaks you off from that. And on top of that, we have the rider on the other side of the anchor, which is a movement card. So you see that you release yourself from a certain anchor and then you move on. At the same time, we've got the star, anchor, and clover. Let's read the mini portrait while we're at it. And this can prove to be a very positive foundation for this friendship. So that's interesting. And there's quite a bit of contrast here, I have to say. But still, there's a lot of lucky energies coming your way. Look, if there are limitations in any form that they may take, this is a sign that you need to release them. Release those limitations in order to see what good can come your way through this relationship. So in what form are these limitations for you? Are they thoughts? Are they a past chapter with the person? Are they a past chapter in your life or their life that sort of get in the way of moving forward? If that's the case, and in any case, it is definitely time to release them, and healing is very much coming through these two powerful cards, as we see that they will with the flowers and sun. So the rider and clover is wonderful news, and I think it builds well on the star and scythe. There is a lot of excitement, a lot of momentum, forward movement, but then what's interesting is the mouse and coffin. So the mouse and coffin is clearly an ending, possibly a time of waiting, but I really feel that it's the ending more than the waiting because of other suggestions and other combinations that we read. I feel it could be moving towards an ending, but we do wrap up here with the flowers and sun, which is an all-around success, healing card combination. There's release, freedom, and the flowers are associated with spring, and then we have the sun. So it's really a beautiful energy of renewal that comes after this ending here. So despite the many, many positive combinations, Opalite, I really feel that this is tipping more towards the idea of releasing a relationship and embracing more the friendship element. So this specific relationship, perhaps you're not meant to be together, but you're meant to be really good friends. And in time, this can prove to be really supportive and fulfilling. Focusing on this mini portrait, we have the rider, woman, and coffin. And, wrapping it up into here, the coffin, dog, and flowers. Yeah, I mean, I really think that you can read this as ending the love aspect into and embracing the friendship aspect. The woman, like the man, and we got the man in the first reading, represent the significant other classically in Lenormand. So when we get these cards in a love reading, they often point to the other person. So that's why they represent the love aspect more than anything else in such a context. And so the rider, woman, and coffin is an ending, and then you see that it sort of resurrects into the friendship with the flowers. So, and we tie these two diagonals into the earlier one, which has to do with release. So I think the message is pretty clear, Opalite group. How do you feel this is resonating with you? Do you think you're better off just sticking with this person as a friend and not so much expect a longer term relationship? I feel that there's lots of support for a wonderful relationship, but I'm not seeing the, the pairing up energy, like you two coming together into one. I'm not really seeing that in the cards. The clover, sorry, woman and mouse is also a positive message in the sense that you are doubting, you don't need to doubt yourself. The clover and mouse suggests that you don't need to doubt yourself. And also it can mean that you might be dreading a little bit the change. Maybe you're not sure how to move on from this or maneuver it, but you're overthinking it. And that's what the clover is telling you. And you don't need to worry about it. With the mouse, dog, and sun on the other side, again, we're seeing a very similar message that we saw with the coffin, dog, and flowers. The idea that you can recover the relationship or the ending of that aspect of the relationship and embracing a friendship that is very relieving and a very beautiful friendship. So I feel, Opalite group, that this is how the cards are expressing. I feel you're meant to be in a friendship more than anything else, not so much a love relationship. And it's very possible that you feel that on a certain level, and maybe you're of two minds and you're doubting and you're not so sure how to go about it, but you may be overthinking that. You don't need to overthink it. You can smoothly transition into a friendship. And I think once you do, you can feel really relieved and released. And it's not only that you would feel that way, but also that it's possible that they also feel that way. And so the friendship has a really positive energy and a lot of good support. And like we saw in the central row, there's lots of trust and support in this friendship. So it can be pretty significant for you in your life, even if it's not the relationship, the love relationship that is meant to be. So these are my thoughts for you, Opalite group. Let me know how you like them. Let me know if they resonate. Let me know if you are of two minds and you're not sure how it plays out. I'm really looking forward to your thoughts and comments about it. So leave me a few below. And until we meet again, very best of luck with this unfolding and this relationship. And let me know how it plays out. And until we meet again, thank you so much for watching and take very good care of yourself. Hello, Carnelian group. Here we are with your reading, your stone, and the deck, always shuffled between readings. For your layout, I want to run a 9-card portrait. And I'm going to fan out the deck this time and then select the cards. Remember, Carnelian group, we are looking at if you are meant to be together. Perhaps you are already in the relationship. Perhaps you are wondering if this relationship, which you are not in yet, is the one. Perhaps there's a strong energy you want us to find out about. So let's go ahead and draw your portrait. Okay, Carnelian group. I am getting some clear messages here. There is quite a positive energy at play, but I really think that a new relationship and a new beginning is in view for you, because we have the child whip and stork on the right hand side of the portrait, and it is a very clear message. I'm just going to pull up the cards to the top here so you see them better. And so these cards are clear cards of change, and the child is definitely a card of a new beginning. So this is a very clear message. I mean, just looking at this line, we have an answer to the question. So I don't think this is meant to be, not for the long term. I think there's going to be a new beginning, and you're going to release yourself from the present prospect or the present relationship. Let's weave the cards together and see what more details we get about this. The letter lily and stork is news of change. The letter covers you, so you could be the one who gets in touch, who reaches out, or who communicates this change. The lily is the card of life path, sometimes career. It's the idea of the longer term phases in life. And when we see it with the stork, there's going to be a life change. And I think you'll be the one who announces it. Very clear that you'll be changing directions. We have the road, lily, and child in the second diagonal, and that is as clear as it gets in terms of a new chapter, Carnelian group. We have the road and lily, which is your life path. We have the child, which is a new chapter, a new beginning in your life. So it's very clear to me that you'll be making a change away from this relationship, Carnelian group. And to answer the question specifically, it doesn't seem that you are meant to be together. You are meant to make a change. You are meant to move on to a new beginning. The letter Key and Child is really positive. It opens up opportunities, and the Key and Child can be a really powerful new beginning, definitely one that answers a wish. Now with the letter here, again, you could be the one who communicates this, but I think because of the Key and Child, I think you get an opportunity that you respond to positively, so you embrace the change. You get an opportunity to move into a new beginning, and I think you embrace it, and this leads you to move on from the current status quo, which entails moving on from the relationship. I want to read the T-cross of this top row, the Key, Lily, and Fish, and these are some pretty powerful cards for work and career. That's because the Lily is a card of career, and the Fish is typically about money. So when we see them together, they point to how you make money, your business, your work. It can be a job or a project that you engage in. And with the Key here, this means amazing potential that opens up for you. It seems that it's possible that you're busier with your career, your work, and making money at this stage than committing to a relationship or focusing more on a relationship. That is possible. Otherwise, if it's not about your work or career, then it just more broadly points to a new opportunity, and one that engages your material well-being and some adventures in life that you want to move into right now. In a way, it's possible that the relationship as it stands sort of limits you a little bit. Maybe it keeps you a bit small or, away from bigger adventures. And I think you want bigger adventures at this time. And so a relationship or committing to one might not be the most ideal thing you want to do right now. The book Lily and Whip is the revelation of a separation. The book is on the left-hand side, which is the earlier parts of the reading, and then the whip is on the right. So we see that there is a revelation. So the book breaks open, if you like. And the lily here points to that life change, like we saw with the road and the stork. So I think that you will make the point, because the letter covers you, you will make the point that this is not so workable, and you will probably make the move to move on from the relationship. It might come as a shock. It might cause a bit of a disturbance, possibly an argument. But if that's the price, then I think you will accept it to make your point and move on, because I think you want to move on. And in the bottom row, we have the road, fish, and stork. And again, this is a really exciting card for card combination for pursuing your ambitions. I don't feel you want to be tied down right now, Carnelian group. I think you want to move on, and I think it feels like the relationship ties you down. A relationship doesn't necessarily tie you down. On the contrary, there are many relationships that are very freeing, and people do wonderful things together. But in this case, for you, Carnelian group, I feel that this isn't that kind of relationship for you. I think you want to move on your own a little bit. You want to do other sorts of things in your life right now. And so I don't think this is meant to be. Again, with the fish being the card of money and tying into the central column, it can mean that you make changes in your work and business, and you're really excited about them, and this is what you want to focus on right now. But more broadly, this is very much about change, practical changes, and you need to take steps in this direction. So yeah, I mean, it's clear that you want to embrace that, and that this doesn't really work well with the current situation in the relationship. The letter book and road can be some very important news that come through shortly, and I think this is part of the revelation here that ties into the central row. There's like, the news of moving on and breaking off, and with the road here, we again see this idea of a separation or moving on, the path ahead. That is possible. It can also be the news that comes through in terms of the opportunity that puts you on this new path, because it also ties into the top row. So all of these can work well together, but it's very clear from these three cards that there is an opening into a new life direction and likely a change from what you're doing. And it can come pretty quickly or suddenly, and so you need to make that change, which would explain the whip, because it's sort of an aggressive card, and so you might need to, like break off, maybe all of a sudden, and it might come across like it will rock the boat, so it might need to happen this way. Maybe it's not fully in your control, but it seems that you're going to need to seize the opportunity that your life presents and embrace this project or this new life chapter, whether it's in your work, your job, your business, or in another area of your life. It seems that you're going to want to take advantage of that and go for that adventure. And that seems to mean moving on from the relationship or the prospects of this relationship. I read the central column, and this clearly brings a wonderful new opportunity, doors opening up in your life, in your career, in your work and business that you want to embrace. And with the child, whip, and stork, this is a very, very clear combination of a new beginning and of a change, and possibly a more radical, a more aggressive change. The idea of breaking free and breaking off and breaking out of limitations are all very clearly coming through the whip and stork. And this may well be a piece of advice, Carnelian group. I mean, the cards can often be read in terms of guidance and advice, and that's often the best way to read them, because that way we can actually do something about the situation. So overall, Carnelian group, I think the message is really clear from this portrait. This is not meant to be. I think you feel it. I think you want to move on from it. Whether you are in a relationship or you're considering one, I think you're going to move on to something different. I think you're going to get busy with something else for a while at least. And this is an exciting adventure for you that you want to embrace. So let me know how you like these ideas, Carnelian group. Let me know if they resonate with you. I'm really looking forward to your thoughts and your comments. Very best of luck with this transition. Let me know how it goes. And until we meet again, thank you so much for watching, and take very good care of yourself. Hello, Cat's Eye group. Here we are with your cards and your stone. And for your layout, I want to do a large hourglass. Remember, we are looking at whether you are meant to be together, whether you are already in the relationship, or you're considering one. There could be some strong energies here, and you're wondering if this can be it. So let's go ahead and deal out your large hourglass and see what comes out. Okay, Cat's Eye group, I think the message is really clear in here. We've got the coffin and ship here on the right-hand side. We have the dog card that I take to mean a friendship, and this is not the first reading in this Pick-A-Card that I get the dog in. I know some people read it as a partnership, and definitely loyalty is at play even in friendships, but when it comes to love, I like to differentiate between friends versus closer than that. So I use the dog to represent friendship. We also have the snake and fox, which is tricky, and the road and coffin, which points to the end of a chapter. So I think just from looking at the cards, Cat's Eye group, I think it's pretty clear that this is not really meant to be, and I think you're going to find that you want to move on in time. So let's go ahead and weave the messages here. Perhaps it's going to help you with the transition, or to consolidate your thoughts about this relationship so that you can make the right move. In the central line, we have the dog, house, and road. And the house and road usually points to a move. It's also important to see the road on the other end of the line, so it does lead to a move. The road is often associated with endings in relationships. It can point to a new beginning, but more often than not, it tends to tip over the ending side. And also the dog and house can point to a friend or a family friend or someone close. Maybe it's a colleague in your work environment. That is possible. But the fact that we have the road on the other side of the house points to a moving on, a change. And so it's possible that maybe a friendship continues, although really with the snake and fox, I'm not so sure about that. But it's pretty clear that there is a change and there's a move. Now we do have the coffin on the other side of the road, and we have the coffin with the ship. So it's pretty clear to me that this is going to point to the end of the road and the end of a journey, which we're seeing, these two cards are very similar with the coffin. So very clear from this beginning. Now the mountain, fox, letter, and coffin is again another clear message of an ending. The mountain and fox in this context suggests an obstacle. I think the feelings aren't there and they're not reciprocal. And I don't think you or them or both of you are really invested in this relationship. I do feel that you could feel that it doesn't really go anywhere. And with the letter and coffin, this is news of an ending. So this is where we see that you will announce the ending. Perhaps they announce the ending, or perhaps both of you agree and you agree that this is not really going anywhere. But I think the line is really clear in this regard. It's possible that you've been holding back. It's possible that communication hasn't been, transparent or totally honest. Maybe both of you have been holding back. Maybe both of you feel that it needs to end, but you're not so sure how to broach the topic. But it will come up, and it will point to an ending. So I'm seeing here the announcement of the ending. In the bottom row, we actually have something not so different. We have the snake and book. Normally, I would take this to mean a secret. And then we have the bear and ship, which can point to an important journey, an important move that comes up. And so this can go in a couple of ways. The snake and book can mean that you close the chapter and you move on, just like we suggested in the top row. Or perhaps you want to move on to another adventure represented by the bear and ship, and you're not really sharing anything about it. I mean, that's fine. You're entitled to it. That's possible. Or maybe they're the ones who do that. Now, another thing that could be going on here is that there could be a third party interfering in the relationship. And the reason is that the snake is often associated with someone like that. So there could be some outright dishonesty and cheating at play here. And on top of that, we have the fox in the cards, which can be similar to the snake. And on top of that, we have them next to the dog, which represents the other person. Now, it's possible that you're the one who's doing this. I don't know. It's going to depend on your specifics. But there can be an interest in another person. And so this present relationship that you're inquiring about is not the one that's meant to be. And so that's what we could be seeing through the bottom row. And if you're inclined that you want to make a change, you want to travel, you want to do things for yourself, then this might be the right time. And yes, you're right. Not everyone needs to be in on your plans. You're entitled to keeping your plans to yourself, your ambitions to yourself, pursue them. And if this relationship is not fitting with your ambitions, or it's not working for what you're after right now, and it needs to change, then it needs to change. And I think you will make this change. And I think you will make it pretty comfortably and smoothly. Now, the mountain and snake typically points to having to go around an obstacle, going around someone's back sometimes. And we have the fox and book, which I also feel someone is keeping, some ideas from you. So this is a pretty clear mini portrait that points to lack of transparency, not really honest about feelings, not really invested in the relationship, and not really being honest about this. And I think this is a limiting aspect that you need to overcome. Like, it can't be hanging like this, forever. You can't be hanging around this unclear energy, this lack of transparency in the relationship, knowing that there might even be someone else interfering in it for long, right? You're going to need to move on. So the snake, dog, and fox is definitely a tricky character here. Someone who is not honest, maybe someone who is materialistic and just after their own goals, their own intentions, and their intentions don't really align with yours. That's pretty clear from having both the snake and the fox. And the mountain and book seems to be someone who is not accessible. The book is closed, the mountain is distant, and we have the snake and the fox who don't speak, who are really secretive and just cunning and calculating. And these four cards are right around this dog here, which represents this person. So I really feel this is someone whom I'm not sure how well you can communicate with this person. I'm not sure how much they're in touch with their own feelings. So I don't see this, being the right thing for you if what you're after is a relationship, and whether it's meant to be or not. If you're asking about whether it's meant to be, you're after a certain level of a connection in a relationship, and these cards really don't check the box. And I really want you to see this, because I don't want you wasting time on a person who is just not there. You know, they just feel like they're away from these cards. Now, looking at the Letter and Bear, this can be this important news. And I think it ties really well with the other indication that we saw at the top here. So it definitely points to the announcement of, you know, parting and letting go. The thing about the Bear is that it might require a bit of courage, and definitely after this silent phase that we're seeing here, which is in the earlier part of the story because it's on the left, it might need to, you know, you might need to break out of this silent atmosphere and just say that this is not going to work and move on. That's if you're in the relationship. In terms of a prospect, you might need to either announce it if the prospect is already explicit, but if it's not, then it might be another kind of announcement that probably involves your trip, the changes that you're making, or the adventures that you're pursuing. Either way, I think it involves the parting and the separation and this moving on to a different phase and a new adventure for you. Now, looking at the central mini portrait, we also have a bit of a tricky character going on here because we have the fox, house, and bear. Sometimes the house and bear can represent your family home, your parents, and with the fox, maybe, you know, they also feel that this person isn't right for you if that's the case. But if not, if this isn't about your parents, it's more about you taking a stand relative to this character and standing your ground. Both the house and bear are very strong cards. You know, they're very solid, they're heavy, they stand strong, you know, and, you know, they have confidence in themselves. So in the face of this shady character, if I can say, you know, you're going to need to take a stand and see them for what they are. The book, house, and letter is another powerful combination for news. So again, after this time of silence, there is a revelation. And in fact, the book and letter is a pretty specific combination in my dictionary. It can point to some very important news that may come suddenly. And this works well with the bear. So a big step here that changes the situation, that changes the direction of where this is going. And I think it's not really going anywhere. And we have the coffin and ship, which is clearly the end of the road, the end of her journey, and therefore the need to move on. And you're moving on. The letter, road, and ship is again an announcement of a change. It's like, you know, it's as though you're saying, I'm leaving, I'm moving on. And the bear, road, and coffin is clearly the end of the road and an important ending that's ahead here. So I think the cards are really, really clear, Cat's Eye Group, for our question, which is always a blessing to get this much clarity. And I hope it aligns with what you're feeling about the cards. I hope it resonates with how you feel this is going. I don't want you to doubt your good sense. You know, if you're feeling that something is off, it probably is off. You don't need a million signs. You need a few signs, and you need your good sense, you know, and your own intuition and your experience and your wisdom. Bring them to the table. If you have doubts about this person, then make a move when the time is right, when it feels right for you, and embrace the adventures that are coming up for you. You know, it's time to break the silence. There's going to be a point where it will be time to break the silence and to make an explicit decision about this relationship, and that you want to move on to a different direction, and you acknowledge that this is not really it, and it doesn't have the potential that you're after. So embrace that change, embrace the adventures that are coming up for you, and let it go. And I think you'll find that it is easy, because there can be some red flags here, like we're seeing through the snake and fox. So I hope this will be easy for you, Cat's Eye Group. Let me know what you make of these ideas. Let me know how you like the messages. Very best of luck with this transition. You will see it through. I have no doubts about that. And you'll be off on probably an exciting adventure here. So let me know how it goes. I'm really looking forward to your thoughts and comments. Again, very best of luck with the transition. And until we meet again, thank you so much for watching, and take very good care of yourself.